But imagine for a moment that everything you thought you knew about God and existence might be incomplete. We have been taught that God is the absolute beginning, the cause of everything that exists. But if everything in the universe has an origin, if every cause has an effect, then the inevitable question arises, who created God? Throughout history, this question has been considered too dangerous to explore openly. Religions, philosophical traditions, and belief systems have avoided delving into it, suggesting it is an unknowable mystery or simply something that should not be questioned. However, some forbidden texts and hidden knowledge have challenged this norm and revealed shocking ideas about the true origin of divinity. Today we will explore these ideas in depth, analyze the answers that have been silenced for centuries, and delve into knowledge that has been deliberately hidden from humanity. And most importantly, we will uncover the ultimate revelation, the most powerful truth of all, which could forever change the way you understand God and existence itself. To begin, we must understand how the great philosophical and religious traditions have tried to answer this question. From ancient Greece to modern metaphysics, the idea of a first principle has been a fundamental pillar in the search for ultimate truth. Aristotle spoke of the unmoved mover, a being that was not created but gives rise to everything else. According to his logic, there must be a first cause that depends on nothing else to exist. Centuries later, Thomas Aquinas picked up this idea in his famous 5 ways to prove God's existence. According to him, everything in the universe is contingent, meaning it needs something else to exist, but if we follow this chain of causes backward, we arrive at a necessary reality, a being that exists by itself and was not created. However, this explanation, while logical, leaves one question unresolved. If God is this absolute principle, can we truly say that he had no origin? Or could the answer lie in a completely different understanding of divinity, one that has been ignored or deliberately suppressed? The ancient Gnostics offered a radically different perspective. For them, the supreme divinity was not the God of the Old Testament, but a higher, unknowable, and eternal source. They claimed that the material world was not created by the true God, but by a lesser being, the demiurge, who deceived humanity into worshipping him as if he were the only God. This concept, present in forbidden texts such as the apocryphal Gospels and the Nag Hammadi manuscripts, raises a disturbing possibility. What if the conventional idea of God is only a limited version, a distortion of a deeper truth? In Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and other esoteric traditions, we find the idea of a higher reality beyond any duality. In Islamic mysticism, the Sufis speak of God as the beloved unknown, one who cannot be described or fully understood. All these teachings point to a similar conclusion. What we call God may be only a manifestation of something even vaster and unreachable. But then, if there is a reality higher than what we call God, who or what created it? The answer might lie in knowledge that has been suppressed throughout the centuries. This is where a forbidden book comes into play, a text so disturbing that it has been considered too dangerous to be openly disclosed. A book that describes the true origin of God, knowledge that challenges everything we have been taught and could radically change our perception of existence. And the most shocking part is that this revelation not only answers the question of who created God, but also explains the ultimate purpose of our existence. Are you ready to discover the truth, to understand the magnitude of this mystery? First, we must analyze the forbidden texts that have been marginalized by official history and contain crucial clues about the true nature of God and his origin. Among these writings are the Nag Hammadi manuscripts, the apocryphal Gospels, and certain Hermetic treatises that reveal a radically different worldview from conventional theology. One of the most enigmatic texts is the Apocryphon of John, a Gnostic writing that tells a completely different story about the creation of the universe. According to this account, in the beginning, there was a supreme entity, an unknowable God, called the One who was beyond all human comprehension. This One did not create the world directly, but from him emanated different levels of consciousness, or divine manifestations known as aeons. However, at some point in this process, one of these emanations, called Sophia, acted without the consent of the One and generated a defective entity, the demiurge. This being, ignorant of its true origin, convinced itself it was the only God and created the material world, establishing a system based on deception and illusion. In other words, according to this view, the God creator of the universe is not the supreme God, but a lower entity that has kept humanity in a state of ignorance about its true nature. If this is true, then the question of who created God takes an unexpected turn. Instead of seeking the origin of the God we know, we must ask about the origin of the One, the absolute source of all existence. But here we face a problem. The One cannot be described in human terms, as it is beyond time, space, and causality. Interestingly, this idea of an absolute and unknowable reality also appears in other philosophical and spiritual traditions. In Hinduism, the notion of Brahman describes a supreme principle that is eternal, unchanging, and beyond any form or definition. In Buddhism, we find the idea of emptiness, a fundamental reality underlying all appearances. And in the Neoplatonic philosophy of Plotinus, the One is the origin of all but cannot be understood by reason, only experienced directly through enlightenment. So if the true God is an eternal and unknowable principle, what meaning does it have to ask who created him? Here we enter a paradox. The human mind is accustomed to thinking in terms of cause and effect, but if the One is the source of everything, then it has no prior cause. It is the ultimate reality, the foundation of all existence. However, some esoteric currents have taken this question one step further. There are those who claim that even the One had an origin, but not in the conventional sense. According to this view, the One is the result of an infinite cycle of creation and dissolution, a cosmic process where reality arises and folds back on itself eternally. This idea resembles the Big Bounce concept in modern cosmology, a theory suggesting the universe did not have a single beginning with the Big Bang, but has gone through cycles of expansion and contraction over unimaginable eons. If we apply this principle to divine reality, we could be facing an even more unsettling revelation. What we call God is not a static and unchanging being, but a consciousness that emerges and transforms through infinite cosmic cycles. But if this is true, a new question arises: who or what establishes this cycle? Is there a higher intelligence regulating this process? Or is everything that exists simply the result of an eternal principle that requires no will or intention? To answer these questions, we must return to the hidden texts, the forbidden books erased from official history for being too dangerous. And it is precisely in one of these texts that we find a surprising revelation, a theory about the origin of God that defies all logic and forces us to completely rethink our understanding of divinity. This book describes a radically different concept of God. It is not an eternal and unchanging entity, but a consciousness that has evolved over time, a cosmic force that has undergone countless transformations before reaching the form we perceive today. If this is true, then the question of who created God has an answer few would be willing to accept. God was not created in a single instant, but is the product of a cosmic evolutionary process that has occurred on a level of reality we are only beginning to understand. But there is something even more disturbing. According to this book, the true key to understanding God's origin is not looking to the past, but looking to the future. It could be that God is not an entity that has existed forever, but something that is in the process of being created right now. If this theory is correct, then humanity's destiny could be intertwined with the evolution of divinity itself. And this leads us to an even more shocking revelation, a truth deliberately hidden because it challenges the very concept of reality. We are about to discover what could be the most unsettling and profound revelation you have ever heard about God and the origin of the universe.